when we talk about compounding, I realize that people only talk about compounding from the angle of investment. Your mental mood around compounding has been framed around investment only. It is not wrong, but we are limiting the effect of this as a subject to just investment. Let me give you a metaphor. This is a bucket of water. No matter how big this bucket is, if I keep putting a drop of water inside this bucket, it will full. But the only difference is that the time it will take for it to be filled. So the essence of it is that as long as you keep putting drop inside this bucket, consistently this bucket will get filled up at some point. Let's take, for example, I'm learning a skill, right? And my skill I want to learn is, let's say software development. I will use my profession as a case study. You know that there's a spirit of learning. Most people don't understand that there's a spirit of learning, and the secret is, all right, so today we're going to be looking at something very, very, very important. In today's class, we'll look at compounding effects. So, I'm committed to your growth. I'm committed to your self-development. And I'm also committed to your mental solidity. And that's why I usually take all the time to study these things and then teach it in such a way that you can understand them and apply them to your life, because I believe that it is very important to put into context what all these things are, because I realize people just do things without understanding the importance of what they are doing. And that's why we're going to be talking about compounding effects as it relates to your growth, your self-development, your mental solidity, your advancement in the context of your desired and manifested outcome, right? So, one of the things I've realized is that there are spirits to everything. There are spirits to everything, just like humans have, just like we have spirit and body. There are spirits to everything that we do. So most time, what we interact with is the body of those things, not the spirit. An example is learning. If you are learning, what we usually interact with is the physical aspect of learning, the body of learning, which is most time reading, watching videos, all those stuff. Those are the body. Those are the physical aspect of learning. But do you know that there's a spirit of learning? Most people don't understand that there's a spirit of learning. And the secret is the effectiveness of that thing, in this context, learning, is in the spirit of it, not in the body of it. An example of the spirit of learning is the mental state that you put towards learning, understanding the outcome of that learning, understanding the discipline of learning, understanding the discipline of repetition, understanding all these are the spirit behind learning. But what most people do is interact with the body, which is the physical aspect of learning. That's why most time their learning is not effective. So what I'm trying to explain is that there is spirit side of things and there's a physical side of things. Now, in the context of this teaching, which is called compounding effects, what is compounding? When we talk about compounding, I realize that people only talk about compounding from the angle of investment. When you ask somebody now, what is compounding? If I ask you now, what is compounding? You will most likely land here, because that's how your mental mood around compounding has been framed around investment only. It is not wrong, but we are limiting the effect of this as a subject to just investment. This is very powerful, and that's what I'm trying to teach, right? So when you ask people what compounding is, when you ask them what compounding, or when they explain what compounding is, they usually explain from the context of investment. Basically, okay, I buy a land today, and in 3 years' time, that land has compounded, and I've got my money 5 times, which is not wrong. It's right in the context of investing. But do you know that compounding effect or compounding principle works beyond just investment? And that's what we are going to demystify in this class. So what we are trying to achieve now is Remember I said that we are doing all of this for the benefit of our growth, our self-development, our mental solidity, and advancement in life. This is basically for everybody, whether you're a young person, you are an executive, and all of that, right? So what is compounding? Compounding in simple terms means, compounding means the ability to add to itself. Do you understand? Compounding means ability to add to oneself. When we look at it from the context of a person, it's the ability to add to oneself. But compounding in the context of a thing is the ability to increase consistently. So which means for it to increase, there has to be an initial investment. You need to lay down something. So the rule of compounding investment is that there has to be an initial capital. When you have this capital most time goes to work, and the profit that it returns comes back, it goes to work, it comes back. So it is compounding on itself. So the exponential effect of this is that at the end of the day, if I invest 1 million, because of the compounding effect, over time is very important, because it doesn't happen on one sitting. So because of that compounding effect, this 1 million can turn out to be 100 million, because the profit that this 1 million makes is put back in that investment fund. Then that profit makes another profit, it's put back. So that is exponential. That's like an exponential effect. But at the end of the day, what it is compounding. So that's what compounding is. Now let's bring it down to the advancement of our life. Because as humans, in this life that we are in, we are always pursuing something. We are always looking out to achieve something. We're always chasing something. You understand? So in that regard, we need to understand what compounding effect is, and for us to be able to get the best out of it, so we need to understand what it means. Remember I said that there's a spirit to everything. There's a spirit side of things, and there's a physical side of things. Most time what we interact with is the physical side of things, not the spirit side of things. So one of those things when it comes to advancement in life, when it comes to growth, when it comes to financial advancement, or when it comes to skill development, one of those things, the spirit side of things, one of those things inside the spirit side of those things is compounding effect. So today, let's take skill as our case study, because I believe strongly that skill is the lowest fundamental level of wealth. Skill is the lowest form of wealth. You cannot amount wealth, or you cannot amount money or riches without first having a skill. Skill is what you trade. I'm not talking about wealth that you get by inheritance or winning lottery or whatever. But real wealth that grows exponentially, it sits on the foundation of skill. So let's look at skill. The reason why most people don't get the benefit out of what they put in their life is because they don't understand this compounding effect. Let's take, for example, I'm learning a skill, right? And my skill I want to learn is, let's say software development. I will use my profession as a case study. Let's say software development, right? You want to be a software engineer, right? This is a skill. So what I usually tell people that I mentor, what I usually tell people in my educational programs and stuff like that, is that if you want to learn a skill, you need to understand the outcome of this skill. You need to know beforehand what you are going to get when you have invested in learning this skill. That is what I consider as the outcome of this skill. You need to understand that. So understanding that frames your mind better to get the value out of this particular skill. So you need to understand the price you are willing to pay. So the price you are willing to pay entails the time frame you will get to learn that particular skill. The time frame, the effort, and the mindset posture you need to have in order to achieve this skill. So we are taking software development as an example. So remember when we talked about compounding, we said that there's usually an initial investment, right? So now if I want to learn this skill, my initial investment will mean that I've understood how many years it will take me to learn software development to be able to reap the benefits of it, which is called the return of investment. Because every skill you learn is an investment. Until that investment starts bringing in profit, that skill has not achieved its purpose. It has not materialized its effect, its purpose. So every skill has what? Return on investment. So for you to get the best out of the skill, you need to understand beforehand what that return on investment looks like. Right? So this is my starting point as someone who wants to learn software development. And this is my end point. So between the starting point and this end point, this is the compounding effect. This is my initial development. My initial investment is my starting point. So what is informed my decision to start with this goal in mind is because I have understood the return on investment on this particular skill. I know that if I learn software development and I'm able to get the required experience, in the next 5 to 6 years, I might be getting maybe let's say $50,000 annually. This is like the end goal. You already have this in mind. This is the return on investment if you are able to achieve at this outcome. So the gap between where you start and your desired outcome is the compounding effect. That's what I mentioned before, time. So the compounding effect is usually a combination of the time you spent on learning that skill, the challenges that you face or learning that skill, the experiences you get in practice of learning that skill. That's what compounds to the outcome. So most time where people get it wrong in building skill is here. Let me give you a metaphor. This is a bucket of water. No matter how big this bucket is, if I keep putting a drop of water inside this bucket, it will full. But the only difference is that the time it will take for it to be filled. If it's a big bucket, if it is one drop of water that enters that bucket, let's say every second or every millisecond, it might take it like, let's say a year for that bucket to fill. But the end goal is that it will eventually get filled up. If it is a cup of water I'm turning in that bucket, it will reduce the timeline for it to get filled. So the essence of it is that as long as you keep putting drop inside this bucket, consistently, the drop keep entering. Pim, consistently, this bucket will get filled up at some point. So that's what this compounding effect is. So your starting point is here. You want to learn this skill. This is your desired outcome. The outcome where you can start getting your return on investment from this skill. This is the bucket. Or I'll say this is the bucket. So this line is a drop. As long as you keep putting in that drop, it keeps compounding. As long as you keep putting that drop, when it is filled up, in the context of this skill, the outcome is this, return on investment. So imagine, what happens when the drop keeps coming in and the bucket is halfway full and the drop stops? What happens? This thing doesn't get filled. Because why? Where that drop was coming from, the source has stopped. It's the same thing a lot of people face today. You start a journey, but halfway through that journey, you stop. So why? It's either that you didn't understand the return on investment and the requirements to get to that return on investment, or maybe you were mentally lazy, you couldn't continue the process, and that's why you stop. So this compounding effect is not complete, and that's why you are not seeing the outcome. And this is, you see this place I'm explaining, this is where a lot of people get it wrong. The problem is not in the skill itself. The problem is the compounding effect or the compounding principle. People don't understand that this principle can also be applied to everything that you do. And that's why I am saying that the spirit of things is usually the most effective way to achieve things. So, and what a lot of people interact with is the body of everything. But if you look beyond the body and look into the spirit of that thing, you will learn a lot. So if someone starts a skill and for some reason they don't understand that they are in a process, there's every probability that they will stop. Because first of all, they don't have this mindset of return on investment. If you have this mindset of return on investment, then you will understand that there's what we call compounding effect. If I invest 1 million today in an investment fund and the next day I return it, I will not get the benefit of this. But if I invest 1 million and leave it for like 1 year or 2 years, definitely I will get something because of what? This compounding effect. So, to round up, from the context of what? Our growth, our self-development, our mental solidity and advancement in life, you need to understand compounding effect. Whatever it is that you want to do, whether it's the career you want to choose, whether it's the business, everything is powered by this compounding effect. There's usually a gap between where you started and where you want to be. You see that gap? It is where the compounding effect is. If you can put everything you need to put in place to make sure that your compounding effect is complete, you will definitely see your results, the outcome. So when I interact with people and people complain about not seeing results in whatever they do, this is where I probe from. My question starts from this place. What have you done? How do you do it? How long have you done it? So that's why usually I tell people, if you want to learn a skill, first of all, take your time to understand what the return of investment looks like. When you understand what the return of investment looks like, you will understand what is required of you to get this return of investment. You will understand the time frame it will take to get the return of investment. And when you have all this in your arsenal, then you are good to go. All this will just be a matter of time for them to manifest. So this is the compounding effect. And welcome to my class.